Okay, friends, here we are, video 2. I want to dive in directly to understanding the 4 phases of your hormone cycle. The first thing that I'll do is I will link it up here for you guys to access a podcast that I did on this topic so that you can get even more detailed information on this. But in the meantime, for the sake of this video, I want to just simply educate you about what your body is supposed to be doing on a week-to-week basis throughout your menstrual cycle so that as you're tracking with the scope, you can pay attention to maybe differences, right? You can compare how you're feeling to how you should be feeling throughout your cycle. So the first thing that I will say is that unfortunately this type of stuff, at least for me, was not taught during sex education. It was something that I've had to learn over the course of time. It seems like sex education was geared more toward how to avoid teenage pregnancy than it was about educating girls and boys, for that matter, on female health. And so this is something that I've had to learn over the course of time just for my own body. And I find that a lot of women don't know how good their body's designed to feel, and they don't understand the hormone ebbs and flows throughout the cycle. So this is something that you can learn, and you're going to start learning it as soon as you start tracking your own cycle. You're going to start to pick up on some things that are happening or not happening that maybe you weren't in tune with before. The first disclaimer that I will give you is that birth control is a suppressor of your hormones. So if you are currently taking birth control, obviously there's no reason to even use this scope because birth control is suppressing ovulation from happening. So most likely ovulation isn't happening for you. So nothing will be findable when it comes to your saliva patterns. Okay, so let's dive into these 4 phases of your cycle. Okay, we have the ovulatory phase, the luteal phase, the menstrual phase, and the follicular phase. We're going to start with ovulation because, like I said in video 1, I find that tracking ovulation and understanding whether or not your body's ovulating is really a vital sign to your overall health. So a period doesn't necessarily matter as much as ovulation, right? A lot of people will have bleeds. Sometimes it's not necessarily a period, which we can talk about in more detail later. But for the sake of today, I want to talk about those phases of your cycle. So obviously ovulation is what we're looking for when it comes to this scope. When we start to see the big jungle ferns appear, we know that we are in this very short window of ovulation. Ovulation tends to happen for about 24 to 36 hours for most women. And during that time of their month, they can start to feel a little bit bloated, a little more tired. Headaches can come on for some women. Some women even experience what are called middle schmerz, which are lower cramping when their body is actually ovulating. When that ovulation has ended, the scope will go back to bubbles. But actually what should be happening in your hormone cycle is that your progesterone should be on the rise. Progesterone is your female fertility hormone. So it exists to support a potential pregnancy, even if there's not one. And so it's an awesome, I love progesterone. It's an awesome feeling when that progesterone kicks in because it's a relaxation hormone. A lot of women find themselves calming down in the second half of their cycle. They start to really relax more. They have better sleep. Up until we get to the bleed, right, which is the menstrual phase. When your cycle sort of starts over again, we start over with a bleed, right? And so again, it could be just a bleed or it could be a full-on period if you have ovulated that month. Once the bleed is over, we start to see that estrogen creep up again, preparing again for ovulation, and that's called follicular phase. So that's when our follicle is in development. That's when we're getting ready to start the whole process of ovulation over again. So we have our ovulation phase, which is the egg drop for fertilization. We have the luteal phase, which is the post-ovulation progesterone surge. We have the bleed itself, which is menstrual phase. And then we go into follicle production all over again. So a couple things that I want to make sure you guys understand is that this scope is going to make you be able to track your cycles so much easier. I know for me, when I first started in this realm, I had doctors and people ask me the question, what day of your cycle are you on? And I remember thinking, what are they even talking about? Like, I have no idea. Like, I knew when my last period was, but I didn't know what they meant by day of the cycle. Well, I want to tell you guys what that means, okay? So day 1 of your cycle is your first day of full blood, full flow. So that's day 1, and then you slowly count, of course, days 1 through whatever it is for you. It could be 28-day cycle, it could be a 35-day cycle. It's different for every woman. So what we want to know is we want to find out what's happening for you. When is ovulation happening or not happening, right? Is it happening early in the month? Is it happening at the midpoint of the month? Is it happening every month? So this is going to be a really great tool for you to use. In my opinion, there's not a whole lot of reason to track or to test your saliva during your bleed. There are off circumstances where some women who are dealing with significant imbalances could be potentially ovulating during the period. It can kind of coincide and it can be sort of a mess, so to speak, when it comes to hormones. But for the most part, you're most likely not ovulating during that time. So I don't think you need to start testing with this until at least day 6 after your bleeding has ended. And I like to tell women that I want you to test all the way through until day 20. So if you haven't gotten any ferns and it's day 18, I want you to test until day 20 before sort of stopping for the month and starting over next month. I like to track everything using apps. I just think it's easier. I like to use my phone. My favorite 2 apps are MyFlow. I can link that up here for you guys as well. MyFLO, and Fitter Woman, FITR Woman. Both of these have different functionalities that I really like, but it helps me to just track my ovulation with this. I know when my bleeds happened, I know how long my cycles are, and I can plug all that into the apps for tracking purposes. So if you're looking to conceive, maybe you're listening to this because fertility is on the priority list for you, this is going to give you a really accurate look at what your hormones are doing and a really great window to try in. And the same thing goes for any woman listening to this who's saying, maybe they don't want to be on birth control anymore, so they've come off of it. And maybe you're looking to simply understand awareness, right? Fertility awareness method. And this is a great way of doing that. You can start to test either your basal body temperature or use this scope to really get a feel for when you are ovulating and when to try or not to try. So I hope this is helpful for you. I'll see you guys tomorrow for video 3.